Y'all hear that? Let's get some Nolans up in there. Come on in, get yourself some gumbo. Unicorn heads, do it again. Take me home, boys. Dang, I was just digging on that. Alright, I guess we gotta do a pool video here and quit entertaining ourselves. Let's move. Hey, we'll get back on that in a minute. Just hang on, we gotta do a pool video. Alright, let's cut to the first pattern. I know you didn't see the whole table layout, but that's okay. You will eventually as soon as I shoot this one ball and move out of the way. If you've watched enough of my videos, you have trained your brain and your eye to see the lines. I just want to show you what it looks like without the lines, and you can see we're kind of lost and in the dark here. As soon as we add the lines, everything starts becoming crystal clear about where we need to put that cue ball. And this is why it's so dang vital to see the lines on every ball, on every pattern. So let's add the lines right now. And if you're new here, you still might be lost, but I promise you pretty soon you're going to see it. And every time you pick up a pull cue, and your brain will be trained, and you'll never go back to the other way. Your game will also go from here, I don't know, 5 balls better. I don't know. It all depends on how you play, but your game will improve a lot once you start seeing and understanding what these lines are all about. Alright, enough about that. Let's move on. Here we see the path of the cue ball after shooting a 1, and what do we need to do with this cue ball, and where do we need to be on the 2 in order to get to the 3, in order to be able to get on that 4 ball. That sounds complicated, but it's not as bad as it sounds, and once you start seeing it and feeling it and believing it, everything gets real simple. The last thing you want to do on this 1 ball is to get straight in on the 2. You're going to have a very difficult time making the 3 if you get straight in on the 2, and you're going to have an even more difficult time getting on the 4 ball. So it's very clear that we need an angle on the 2 ball to get the right shape on the 3 ball. Now, you could play this 1 ball shot to get above that 2 ball line for a good angle on the 2 to get to the 3, but I don't like it because you have to baby your stroke to do that. So I'm trying to get under that 2 ball line, and in order to do that, and in order to stay safe from scratching or from getting straight in, I'm going to have to go longer down the table than I actually want to, but I'll have the right angle on the 2 to get to the 3. You could also play this 1 ball shot to get under the 2 and a little bit closer to the ball by shooting toward this rail down here and bouncing up lightly. But again, I don't like it because it's going to take a little more English. It's going to spin the ball a little too much. You might wind up shooting into that 2 ball and winding up in a disaster. Or you might not put enough English on it and you might wind up scratching. So to stay safe, I'm just shooting it a little bit harder with a little bit of left-hand English to go further down table. It's fine to have a longer shot as long as you have the right angle and it's the safest shot on the table, and in this case it is. So the agenda on the 2-ball is to stun it out to that 3-ball line. I wind up going a little bit higher than that 3-ball line, but it's just a hair higher. You don't have to shoot to get straight in. You'll be okay if you come up a little bit under the 3-ball line or a little bit over the 3-ball line. And on the 3-ball shot, we can just roll a couple inches down table and we'll be straight in on that 4. So let's go ahead and cut this and go back to the actual table. And because this is a very thin cut on the 1-ball, there's nothing to stop the momentum of the cue ball from rolling all the way down table. So I'm just putting just a hair of left-hand English on here. No top, no bottom. I want it to go down table. So we should be good. And let's go ahead and shoot it. Dang, y'all, turn that back up. Why can't we have some background music while we're yakking? Ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of background music. We're just stunning this ball out along the bulk line or the head string, the line where you break from, whatever you want to call it. And getting out toward the center of the table. You should shoot for straight in on the 3, but it's okay if you come up short or go just a little bit long. Just don't come up too short or go too long, and you'll be okay anywhere around the red line. From there, we're just rolling down for another straight-in shot on the 4, and then we're drawing back just a couple of inches to get the right position on the 5. And that'll allow us to get on the 6, but we're getting ahead of ourselves, so let's just cut right here and go back and check it out. This is being shot with straight bottom, no left or right. You're just stunning this ball out. You're not trying to draw it back. You're just kind of killing it on an angle to have no place to go but center table. That's the agenda. We're just a hair left of the line, so this is going to roll right a little bit, and we're rolling down table a little bit. We don't necessarily have to get straight in on the 4 because the 7 is right next to the 4, so that's 7-ball. And I'll put that in the next graphic. That 7-ball will keep the cue ball from rolling further down table, and as long as we draw it back a little bit, we'll be fine on the 5-ball. And from the 5, we're going to the bottom rail and spinning it with right-hand English back onto the right line for the 6-ball to bounce up on that 7-ball, which is not in this graphic, but it will be in the next one. Let's go ahead and cut back to the table. I shoot this shot with just a hair of bottom on it, but I'm not drawing the cue ball back. In fact, the backward spin on the cue ball will stop about a foot before we get to the 3-ball. Then it'll slide a little bit, and then it'll start rolling forward. So it's actually putting forward spin on it. It's just slowing the cue ball down to just put a little bit of forward spin on it. I hope you understood that. That's a good shot to practice right there. It's going to take a good eye to shoot this 4 without hitting the 7 on the way to the 4. But because we have a little bit of a left-hand cut after it hits the 4, it is going to want to go down table a little bit, and it's going to hit the 7 on the way back. Because it's a full ball hit on the 7 and you're barely skimming it, it's you know, you're not going to knock the 7 into your way. You're just going to knock it down table, microscopic, like maybe a ½ inch, maybe not even a ½ inch. But the agenda is to get back to here on the 5 so you can have a good angle to get back on the 6 and therefore back on the 7. And the 8 ball is close to center table, but not quite. The 8 ball is sitting right about here. So if you can see the pattern through the 6 ball and the 7 ball, you should be feeling that you have this run out in your hands. It's just a matter of doing it at this point. You're just drawing back, straight back, just a couple inches. You just want to get away from that 7 ball, and you just want to come out a little bit for the right angle on that 5 to bounce off that bottom rail and get the right position on the 6 to get back on that 7. Hey, the most important thing to remember here is that the 9 ball is right about here. So we have to get on this side of this 8 ball in order to get back on the 9 ball. In order to do that, we need the right angle on the 7 ball, so we have to get on the right side of that 7 ball, so right about here, off that 6 ball. And this is cutting it a little bit close with this particular pattern here. So in order to get that position on the right hand side of that 7 ball so we can roll down table a little bit, we're going to have to play this 5 ball with a little bit of right hand English to bounce off that bottom rail, and be really careful with where we get on that 6 ball. We don't particularly want to be straight in. I'm going to use the bottom rail again to get from the 6 to the 7. And you'll see how I play. For now, let's take a look at the line on the 5 ball with a little bit of right to bounce out on a little bit of an unnatural angle off that rail to get the right position on the 6 ball. Straight right here, no top or bottom. All you're doing, you're most concerned with spinning this ball off that bottom rail. And it's a pretty drastic angle here. Yeah, just like that. Otherwise, it would have came up right behind the 6 and it would have hit it if we didn't put that right on it. Just be careful. That's another good shot to practice right there. This might look a little bit unnatural to you, but we're going down to that bottom rail there. Let's go ahead and look at the line here. The key with this shot is hitting the center ball and hitting it very hard. So you can't be afraid of it. Don't put any top on this. You don't want to roll forward. You're going to get out of line on the 7 if you put top on it. And of course, don't put any bottom on it either. You're going to draw it back and you're not going to like the result. So yeah, we're going to the bottom rail, and don't forget we're coming up on the right hand side or this side of that 7 ball. You don't want to cross that line. You'll never get on the 8. If you do, well, I mean you can, but it's going to be difficult to get on the 8 if you cross that line. And from there we'll be able to get on the right side of the 8 ball in order to have the angle to get back on this 9 ball. Center ball and shoot it hard. Let's take a look at the shot line on the 7. You can see we're just rolling up table a little bit, and I wind up going a little bit too long here. So I have to change my original plan, and I believe this is the first time I get out of line, but it's no big deal. And the plan doesn't change very much. I just have to go down to that bottom round in order to get right on the 9. You'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and cut back to the game. Just a little bit of top here. You're just driving the cue ball through the 7, just a little bit up table. And I went a little bit too long there. This was the original plan from the 8 to the 9. But that would have been too easy. So now, instead of going one round and bouncing out for the simple pattern here, because I got a little bit high on this 8 ball and I don't have the right angle to do that, I have to go 2 rounds, and this is really hairy. If you go a little bit long here, you're on top of the 9 and in an impossible position to make the 9. You're better off coming up short here. And you'll see I wound up going a little bit too long, get a little bit on the, on the left-hand side of this 9 ball, but it all worked out in the end, and another 9 ball was sunk. You'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and roll it. I'm putting a little bit of right-hand English on here to kill the angle off that second rail, just so it doesn't bounce into the 9 and comes up short of that line. And, I mean, this is an easy shot, but it could have been really, really bad. So let's just go ahead and let it roll through, and then we're going to do the loop back.
Sleep right here, that thing, cause if it's probably long, get down in and out, but turn it shit down.
Did you hear that?
I didn't hear nothing.
I think somebody said turn it up. They can't hear it. Turn it up.